Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a tier list of how useful each Kirby copy ability would be in a real life fight. So let's get right into it. Starting off F tier, these worse than just fighting normally with nothing. And the worst ability is definitely Sleep. This sleep ability just makes you fall asleep. You also can't stop it from making you do that. So obviously that would be the worst one for a fight. After that, still in F tier, we have Mini. Mini just makes you really small and nothing else happens. Obviously that would be one of the worst ones. Starting off D tier now. These would practically nothing if you were in a fight. I don't really know why you would want them, but they at least wouldn't be worse than fighting normally. It just wouldn't do anything. And first in this tier is Light. Light just makes a big burst of light, and that consumes the ability immediately. Why you would want this for a fight, I don't really know. Maybe it would blind your opponent for a second or something. I don't think it would be very useful though. Next in D tier is the Rock ability or Stone. I don't remember which one it's called. This one you just turn into a rock, a really big boulder pretty much. This ability is a lot more useful for Kirby than a real life person, since Kirby can fly over top of his opponent's heads. So the main thing you would want this for is to fly up above your opponent and then drop down onto them. And you can't do that in real life, so this one wouldn't be very useful. You don't take damage while in the stone form, but you're not gonna win a fight by just standing there. Now moving on to C tier. These are abilities that wouldn't be particularly useful, and there's a bunch of better choices. And to start off this tier, we have High Jump. This one just makes you jump really high. Why you would ever want that for a fight, I don't know. You also can't really aim the jump towards your opponent. It's just a straight vertical jump. So I don't think that would be super useful. Next is Ball. Ball ability makes you turn into a ball and bounce around. It does do a lot of kinetic damage if you hit someone while in the ball, but it also takes a large time to charge up by bouncing and is extremely hard to control. So for me personally, I don't think I could handle Ball. It doesn't seem like it would be that useful for me in a fight. Next up is Parasol. Parasol just gives you an umbrella, and why you would want that for a fight, I'm not sure. It would give you a slight edge on your opponent, I guess, because you have an umbrella, but ultimately not great for a fight. And finishing off C tier is Magic. Magic is just a roulette wheel that randomly gives you something. Some of them would be good for a fight, some of them wouldn't. Ultimately, I don't think you would really want this one though. And next up is B tier. These ones are ones that could definitely mess someone up. You could do some real damage with these copy abilities. These are ones that you might want to pick for a fight. Starting off, we have Fighting. This one just makes you good at fighting. Who wouldn't want that? Next up is Backdrop. This one just makes you good at wrestling. So it's pretty much the same as fighting, but a bit of a different style you could go with. About the same as fighting though in terms of how useful it is, I think. Next up is Throw. This ability makes you be able to throw things. Being able to throw things could be useful for a fight, especially if there's rocks on the ground. You could do some damage with those. Next up is Twister. This makes you turn into a tornado that would fly your opponent around, I guess, kind of throw them against the walls and disorient them. This one would be kind of useful. You could spam this in a fight and get away with something, I bet. Next up is Hammer. This ability gives you a giant hammer. I don't think I need to explain why that would be good for a fight. Next up is Laser. This ability makes you be able to shoot lasers. They're just small little lasers, but they do rebound and bounce off of things. I don't know how much damage they would do to a human opponent, but it would be pretty good to have for a fight. Some nice ranged smaller attacks. That would be useful. Next up is Freezing or Freeze or whatever this one's called. This one just makes you freeze things around you into ice. That would be really good. Someone goes in to like punch you, you could freeze their arm or something. Pretty useful. Next up is ice, I think is what it's called. This is just the same thing as freeze, but instead of making a cloud of cold around you, you have ice breath, so it's a bit more accurate, but basically the same thing. Next up is needle. This one you just curl into a ball and sharp needles poke out of you. That would be good for like somewhat of a tactical defensive thing in a fight, I guess. Next up is cutter. Cutter, you can throw like sharp boomerangs, I guess, which would be pretty good for a fight. You just have a weapon, pretty much. It gives you a weapon. So that would be good for a fight. Next is a wheel. A wheel, you turn into a wheel and you can hit things. The only downside being that you turn back after hitting something. But you can gain a lot of speed as this, so this would be really good for a real life fight. You could slam into your opponent really hard and that would definitely hurt someone, mess them up. Next is sword. Sword just gives you a sword, pretty self-explanatory. That would be great for a fight if your opponent isn't armed themselves. Next is Smash. This just gives you Kirby's moveset from Smash, which would be pretty good. Having a Smash moveset would be useful for a fight, whether it's in a game or in real life. And finally, the highest in B tier is Cupid. This one allows you the ability to quickly fly around. Although you can't hover in midair, you do slowly fall down when you're not actively flying, but that's still obviously a big advantage in a fight. And you can shoot arrows too. So this would be really good. This is very high B tier. And next we're starting off A tier. These would severely injure someone in a fight. You would be very overpowered. And first of all, the lowest in A tier is UFO. UFO, you turn into a UFO that can fly around completely unaffected by gravity and has many different beams and laser attacks. This would be really good in a fight. Next is Master. This is just sword but better. It's a sword with a much greater moveset than the normal sword ability, and it can shoot beams as well. So this would be even better than having a sword. You have like a holy sword, basically. Very good for a fight. Next is Beam. Beam is pretty good. You just get a little beam. I think it's actually like a whip or something. The in-game flavor text describes it as. But essentially, whether it's a whip or a beam, you just get to shoot a little line of electricity. This would be pretty good for a fight and could definitely hurt someone. Next up is Fire. This one, you get fire breath. Spewing fire during a fight would obviously be really good. Next is Spark. Spark is essentially what Freeze is, but with electricity. So you surround yourself with a cloud of electricity. This would be really good for a fight. Someone goes in for a hit and you send a ton of volts through their body. That would be extremely useful to have in a fight. Next up is Cook, or Cooking, whatever it's called. This, you just gather nearby things and even some enemies and put them in a pot, and then it turns into food. This would be good in real life as well. You could probably damage your opponent by sucking them into the pot, with the added bonus that it gives you some food as well. I don't know if you'd be able to eat the food during the fight, but it's kind of cool, I guess. And to end off A tier, we have Bomb. This one just gives you bombs, and you can throw them. This is very good. The bombs can damage you as well, but you're able to throw them pretty far, so having bombs in a fight would obviously be very useful. And finally, we have S tier. These are the strongest copy abilities. These would pretty much instantly kill any opponent, not just a human opponent. These could take out like a tank even. To start off S tier, we have Mic. Mic, you just sing into a microphone really loud, so loud that it somehow damages things around you. This would be pretty good. I don't know how that would work in real life, but if it did, that would be a ton of damage, and you can use it 3 times. Next is Burning, or something. Burning, flaming. I think it's called burning. Burning, you just turn into a fiery meteor, just a giant fireball, and you fly forwards at extreme speed. That would obviously do massive damage to anyone you were fighting, whether it's a human or a bear. That would be really good. Next is missile. This one self-explanatorily turns you into a missile, which would be very strong. You can control where the missile goes. I don't think anything could withstand a few hits from this. Next is the Star Rod. The Star Rod is extremely powerful. You just shoot a massive star. This would destroy any opponent with just a few hits from it. It's very quick as well. And finally, the best ability for a fight is Crashing or Crash. This ability just causes a massive explosion, killing anything around you. This would do huge damage, just a huge massive explosion. Needless to say, that would be great to have in a real life fight. So that concludes the tier list. Now you know the best Kirby abilities if you're ever in this random hypothetical scenario. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.